Trump's inauguration is just over 1 week away. He has threatened tariffs. Let's get a look at what could actually unfold on the trade front. Wendy Wagner joins us now, partner, head international trade and customs at Gowling, the law firm. Thank you very much indeed for coming on the show, Wendy.
You're welcome.
I think you have a bit of a reality check for us here. But I mean, we've got a trade relationship that goes back decades, centuries between the two countries. Could one president really upend things?
Yeah, in the short term, he absolutely can. It's hard to say what that will mean in 4 years from now. It's hard to say what it'll mean in a month from now. But yeah, in the short term, I think we've already seen from 2018 that trade relations can be upended pretty quickly, and everyone has to deal with it. So absolutely, I think everyone has to take all of this really seriously.
We do have this trade agreement, though, between Mexico, or among Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. Can he just override that and say, well, I'm slapping on tariffs?
It would definitely be contrary to the trade agreement to do that. But the issue with trade agreements is that they are intergovernmental agreements. So there's no one supranational authority that sits on top of that and polices it. The agreement is only as good as the commitment of the parties to it to comply with it. So that's the situation you're in with any international trade agreement.
So what would happen? I mean, if he was... Sorry, it goes to arbitration if, say, Canada objected under the agreement. What would be the procedure, roughly speaking?
Yeah, there's a dispute settlement mechanism within the agreement itself. That's a panel-based dispute settlement mechanism. It has been used. The issue with that dispute settlement mechanism is that, well, one, it's lengthy. It wouldn't, there's no immediate resolution. Similar to what the situation would be if you brought something before domestic courts. These are lengthy procedures. And second, you still have to abide by the decision of the dispute settlement body once issued. And that doesn't always happen. The Biden administration has used the dispute settlement mechanism in the auto space and didn't abide by the determination that was reached. So it's still only as good as the commitment of the parties to abide by the agreement.
That's interesting. So the current Democratic administration, they did not live up to their commitments in that sense.
That's right. Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, I mean, what are Canada's realistic options here? We can put on punitive tariffs, but I presume we need them more than they need us.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the balance of trade between the countries, the Trump administration or the President-elect Trump is not incorrect to say that there's a trade balance in favor of Canada. So we sell more to the United States in absolute terms than they sell to us. But they still sell a lot of product to us. So there are ways that we can respond, and which we did respond back in 2018 with respect to retaliatory tariffs. So it's not like that does not have an impact on the U.S. economy. And when you look at retaliatory tariffs, they're often targeted in a way to impact particular industries, to have a maximum effect from a political perspective. And that's what was done previously and, did seem to have some effect. So it is what we've heard in the press reports is being contemplated at this time as well.
I mean, this talk of taking over Canada using economic force, should we take any of that seriously? I know that's a broader constitutional question, and it really is pretty insulting as well.
I don't know what we should take seriously or not take seriously at this point in time. I'm not even sure what exactly that means to take over another country through economic measures. Obviously, if there's tariffs put into place, that will have an impact on our economy. But ultimately, what that means from a political perspective is, I think, in a different matter. And I don't think we've heard any suggestion from any politician in Canada, whether currently in government or potentially coming into having the opportunity to come into government, that there's any appetite for Canada to join the United States from a political perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just racking my brains there, and back in 2018, Canada was kind of selective with our tariffs. They went after whiskey from Kentucky, and that was the state of Mitch McConnell, the top Republican.
Yeah, that's right. Ketchup from Pennsylvania. Orange juice from Florida. These are the types of things that happened back in 2018 and that we'd probably be likely to see again.
Trump is playing arguably to divide and rule here, and we've seen some Canadians or the current Liberal government seemingly willing to negotiate individually with him instead of including Mexico. But you think broadly nations will emphasize multilateral trade agreements amid this turmoil?
Yeah, I think that's difficult. I mean, anyone who's sort of in the trade world will know that the World Trade Organization, which was intended to be the ultimate multilateral trading body, has been largely paralyzed within the last decade or so. The developing countries that are a part of that agreement have different objectives than the more developed countries within that agreement. There's been issues with dispute settlement in that context. So that hasn't been a perfect solution. Really what has come to replace that is the bilateral or less multilateral agreements like the CPTPP with Canada and several of the Asian countries, and like the CETA agreement between Canada and Europe.
Could I ask you one more quick question? And sorry, journalists are always doing this. It's a complicated one. But I believe in the original NAFTA agreement, Canada said, OK, we'll put no restrictions on U.S. oil, on our oil sales to America that aren't put onto our own nation. So have we agreed not to provide any restrictions on our oil exports to the USA so we'd be prevented from putting export levies on?
Yeah, that's right. So under the trade agreements, and this is true of both the World Trade Organization GATT agreement and NAFTA as well, there are provisions that prohibit export restrictions and export taxes and levies as well. So it's not just imports that are governed by the agreement. But of course, every trade agreement has exceptions and different mechanisms that can be used if you fit into the circumstances for that. So, there's been talk in terms of the Trump administration using IEEPA, which is a emergency measures authority in order to enact tariffs. Perhaps Canada could do the same, looking to national security exemptions within the trade agreements. So there's ways that you can position things. They may not withstand scrutiny if they were subject, if that were subject to challenge. But again, we've got these sort of imperfect challenge procedures within the agreements that everyone has to agree to adhere to make them effective.
Wendy, thank you very much.